So we've arrived at a place now where the actual draft has happened. This is the first episode since it's happened, and of course, our future team here, our made-up future team, is no longer accurate. Well, it was never accurate, but of course now it's actually inaccurate because those new teams actually exist. But it turns out I'm kind of a wizard. Now last year, I don't remember exactly what the video was about. For whatever reason, it was about a running back. It was about Derrick Henry. And I called him going to the Titans, and that was pretty much as close as I got to anything realistic with that. And now I called Derrick Henry going to the Titans with the first pick they had in the second round. It was also a slightly popular mock draft pick, I believe. He obviously went a little bit later, but still, I was happy with that. I made a random call, not really thinking about exactly if it would happen or not, just more for the sake of this video. So for this video, I, of course, technically made 4 predictions. Now, this was never meant to be about predicting the Browns draft. If you remember the video I made explaining this, it was more about what I think would be a great draft for the Browns, what I think would suit them very well, rather than what I think they should do, if you know what I mean. So I basically, along the lines of exactly what they did, I think they should have gone, you know, Myles Garrett, best player available with the first overall pick. They did that. They should then continue to just take the best impact players they can get and not rush for a quarterback. As we got closer and closer to the draft, all these analysts kept saying, I think they should trade up from 12 to 8 or whatever to pick up Mitchell Trubisky. And I was thinking, no, don't force the quarterback issue. That's what I said when I made this series. I said, I don't want them to push the quarterback issue. If they would wait, the scenario theory here was obviously they do whatever they do the first year, just take these impact players on defense and offense, and then when they come to next year, they have Lamar Jackson, who had such a wonderful second year starting. He's got another Heisman Trophy, and he's just sat there, the outright easy first overall, second overall, third overall, wherever the Browns were going to be picking pick. He sat there for them. They're no longer pushing the issue. The quarterback they would want is sat where they want him, and they can take him. That was my theory. The Browns one-upped me. They absolutely one-upped me. In their actual draft, they ran this perfectly. So they go Myles Garrett first overall, and that is what we went for here. Now it's the second overall pick because obviously I had to simulate the first season, so we didn't get the exact same draft order. But it still worked out. Obviously, the first pick that they had, they were able to get Myles Garrett because obviously the guy didn't actually exist in the roster, so I was able to take whoever I wanted. So that was the first pick they made. Then I said, I believe this is exactly what I said, they trade down with the 12th overall pick. Now imagine if they traded down with their 12th pick, maybe 10 picks later, to pick up Jabril Peppers at strong safety. Because remember, I made these calls on the 9th of March. The 9th of March is when I released this video. And now here, I've got the archive of basically NFL.com's mock draft thing, so we can see some of the mock drafts that were around 9th of March, and if we take a look, there was one guy saying that Christian McCaffrey would go in the first round. Chad Reuter down here also said it, but out of the top 4 here, of Charlie Casserly, Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, Lance Zierlein, one guy said Christian McCaffrey goes in the first round. At the time I said this, Christian McCaffrey was still seen as, you know, a bit of a gadget player, and that was about it. He could be good, he could be whatever. Most of them had him projected to go in the second round. So what I did, I said they would be able to take him with their first pick in the second round. So that's how we picked up Christian McCaffrey in this scenario. He was drafted with the first pick they had in the second round. Went to a Pro Bowl in his rookie year, was the 2017 Offensive Rookie of the Year, which I didn't know until I recently looked this up. Well, I say recently, until I checked the guys like 2 minutes ago. So in terms of the time I was making it, that still made sense, but of course ended up being the wrong pick. Christian McCaffrey went 8th overall to the Panthers, who in most of these were taking guys like Derek Barnett, Solomon Thomas, Derek Barnett, or Jonathan Allen. So they were going for defensive ends apparently in all of these mock drafts. But of course that one was wrong, but it, again, like I said, it wasn't about being right. That was the offensive weapon. So they took, with their first 3 picks, and we'll get on to the earlier second one, they took 2 defensive players and an offensive weapon. Now they went David Njoku, they released Gary Barnidge. Obviously what we ended up doing in our season here is we played our first season with Gary Barnidge, then released him and picked up Delaney Walker instead. And I remember saying whilst playing this series, you know, at one point I wish I would have said, oh, we take OJ Howard or someone else instead, because I wanted that tight end, that offensive weapon there. So I accidentally also ended up with the same thinking as the Browns on that one. However, this is where I become the wizard, an actual wizard I didn't even realize it was this crazy. So we have Jabril Peppers at strong safety. Now that's another pick that I got right. Now I said something along the lines of with the 12th overall pick, I believe what I said was they trade back for value next year. Now I may just be making that up, pretty sure I'm not though, but obviously what they did with the 12th overall pick is trade back for some value next year. Now here's the wizard part. On the 9th of March, I created a team where Jabril Peppers was drafted in the first round with the 25th pick by the Cleveland Browns. I didn't just get the player right, and this was an outside shot. Nobody really was calling Jabril Peppers going to the Browns. That was not a thing really being said by anybody. More importantly, nobody was saying that the Browns would be picking at number 25 and taking Jabril Peppers. Somehow, through sheer coincidence, I mean magic, because I called it on purpose, I thought this would happen, I called it 100% perfectly right. Now, I'm not patting myself on the back here saying, "Way, look at me." I just think that's obviously quite cool that it happened like that. As for the jersey numbers they'll be wearing, I was off by 2 for both. Now, obviously, I was just picking random numbers for these guys. Jabril Peppers, I gave number 25. He'll be wearing number 27. And Myles Garrett, I gave number 93. And he'll be wearing number 95. So I was 2 lower for both the players. And then we have our final pick, Ryan Anderson. And now Ryan Anderson I took with the last second round pick that they had. And this basically was more of a, you know, just taking a player for the series type pick. The point that I was making this, everybody already knew the Browns had switched to a 4-3. However, I knew in the game we would have to continue playing with a 3-4. So I wanted another outside linebacker because in the game they were using, I think, Emmanuel Ogbah as one of the outside linebackers, or Kyle Nassib. Basically, one of the 2 guys that didn't fit there. So we took Ryan Anderson there. He became the 2017 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Now, Anderson ended up going with the 17th pick in the second round. We had him here at the 26th. And he, at the time, you know, Ryan Anderson was seen as like a 3rd round guy. So again, it was another guy I thought they could take. Ended up becoming 2017 Defensive Rookie of the Year for us, which really shows why now we're at 4-0 after another draft. Obviously, we had another draft where we take quarterback Lamar Jackson, then another draft after our first playing season where we pick up some decent players that helped us on defense, pick up some free agents more importantly. But now we're playing well, and it shows because we drafted in those years the Offensive Rookie of the Year, the Defensive Rookie of the Year. The next year, we had the Offensive Rookie of the Year again. And I gotta say, completely accidentally, I'm pretty proud of how I managed to call the Browns draft. They basically did, in terms of the players they took, exactly how I wanted them to draft. So not how I think they should have drafted, but how I think it would have gone best for them, and they did it. They went defender, Myles Garrett with the first pick. Then they literally did exactly what I thought they would, not thought they would do, what I said they do for this. I said they go Jabril Peppers afterwards. So they've got now 2 impact players on defense. Then they take an offensive weapon. And again, to be honest, if I'm giving myself some padding here, the reason I went Christian McCaffrey for this is because I don't like either of the options on Madden that they have at running back, whereas for Hugh Jackson, that's exactly what he likes at running back, to have, you know, your one ground and pound guy, the other guy you can throw out and throw footballs to. So for that, again, it was more of a game-based pick, but I'm not saying I would have ever said, oh, and then they take David Njoku. That's, you know, that would just be me completely lying. But they then took a offensive weapon. Now, we went for the next pick. We said they take Ryan Anderson. Of course, nobody had a clue that Deshaun Kaiser would be sat there waiting for them. And they may have got it right here. This is exactly what I wish they could have done, and they ended up exactly doing. You take impact player, impact player, impact player that they even traded up for, and then all of a sudden you're sat there and you're willing to make, you know, they're probably waiting, just making their best pick. Let's see who's available. And a quarterback that some fringe analysts and mock drafters potentially had going in the first round just falls into your lap. Now, I made a video last year about why the Browns shouldn't have picked a quarterback at number 2 overall. Now, hindsight being 2020, there is of course an argument that they should have done that, but my theory at the time still makes sense. Ignoring a bunch of 3rd and 4th rounders swapped for some later round Browns picks, Wentz is essentially worth 2 extra 1st round picks and 2 extra 2nd round picks thanks to later trades with the Titans in 2016 and the Texans this year. My point at the time was this: don't force a quarterback pick. Copy the Bengals of 2011. They needed a quarterback too, but they took AJ Green 4th overall, missed out on Locker, Gabbert, and Ponder, and took Andy Dalton in the 2nd round. The Browns have basically done that, taken potential difference makers in the 1st round rather than reaching for a quarterback, and then had Kaiser fall into their lap. If he ends up their starter, they've played this to perfection. If he doesn't, they've still played it close to perfection because of how little he cost them in the big picture. Even if this doesn't work out, the Browns didn't make any rash decisions and have made smart picks, taking highly rated players where they were expected to go. And who knows, maybe when Josh Allen comes into the league next year as the clear favourite for the 1st overall pick, the Cleveland Browns are there to take him organically, not trading up, just like the Colts took Andrew Luck, just like the Panthers took Cam Newton, and how the Buccaneers and Titans took Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota. You take him with the pick you have. You don't trade up, because if you're trading up, it means teams are trading down because they don't value the player enough. The Browns may have been biding their time long enough to be in the right position to take the right player. Maybe it's Josh Allen, maybe it's even Lamar Jackson, but they're in a good place and they're building a team so that whoever ends up being their starting quarterback, they've got the guys around them to succeed with.